Valentine's comes so soon, it seems like after Christmas. I mean, literally about the day after the Christmas decorations are taken down in the store, I think the Valentine's display are put up. I know, it all seems too soon, too sudden, everything comes too fast, but I do love a reason to celebrate. And you know what? If it can be a little bit more of a homemade celebration, I think all the better. That's why I'm gonna help you make amazing homemade Valentine's suckers this year. What? You're gonna make the suckers? I know, it's so easy to go to the store and just buy a bag of them and give them out to people, give them to your kids to take to their class, but come on. Making them at home is actually so fun, and I think you're gonna be surprised how easy this is, because it really is easy. But as a word of caution before we start, working with sugar is dangerous. You can actually burn yourself, and I'm just gonna tell you now, I've done it. I am telling you from experience. Just the other week before Christmas, I burned myself pretty bad on a batch of peanut brittle. So you wanna make sure to have a bowl of ice water by the stove ready to go. Plunge your hand into it if you get sugar on it. So be careful and do not let the kids help do this because it can be a little scary. But put that aside, don't worry. If you do it right, you will not have a problem. To start, you just want to make sure to have everything ready to go. You can buy these sucker molds at any craft supply store or kitchen store. They are extremely inexpensive, and you can buy any shape you want. Since it's Valentine's, I'm getting some hearts, but I also have just some regular round circles too, just to add a little bit of difference and show you what you can do. I like to put my molds on parchment-lined baking sheets. That way, if you drizzle any of the sugar onto the counter or onto the sheet, it just goes right onto that parchment paper and it is really easy cleanup. So before we start, you just want to make sure to rub the insides of all these molds with vegetable oil. Once again, from experience I've learned, if you don't, they don't really come out that nice and they don't look that nice. So just lightly put a little bit of a paper towel and some vegetable oil and rub the insides of the mold. Then you just want to put some sucker sticks, which come from the craft supply store too. They're usually right beside these molds, so don't worry. Place them in with the mold and have it go about halfway up into the sucker, kind of just however much you want it to go up, and then you are ready to go. Once your molds are ready to go, you can just set them aside and leave them until you're ready. Next, it's important to make sure everything is also ready to go. So just have whatever flavoring you're gonna use, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, and your food coloring just set aside and ready for when it's needed. Because as you know in the past, when you work with sugar, once the sugar's ready, you need to be ready. There is no time to just wait around. Part of making sure everything is ready, I also like to have a glass heat-proof measuring cup, at least a 2-cup size, ready to go to pour the sucker mixture in before you pour them into the molds. If you try to do it right out of the saucepan, you are gonna have the stuff all over, and you don't want that. So just lightly oil the inside of this measuring cup so it comes out easier and cleanup is easier, and then set that aside. Okay, to start, in a small saucepan, you just want to put in some sugar. Yes, these are suckers, so of course they have sugar. Then you just want to put a little bit of water and some corn syrup. Now, the corn syrup, I like to take the measuring cup and just lightly rub it with oil too. That way it will just come out a little bit easier. You don't have to. That is just a nice little tip that I love to do. Once all your ingredients are in that saucepan, you just want to set it on the stove over medium to medium-high heat. Stir it just a little bit to make sure none of the sugar is sticking to the bottom, and then once it is starting to get warm, you can just turn it up to high. Yes, remember, I said this gets really hot, so turn it up to high, have that ice water beside you, and be watching it. It's gonna come to a full boil, and remember that a boil is about 212 degrees. So once it starts boiling, you know that it's at about 212 degrees, but we are taking this all the way up to hard crack, which is about 300 degrees, and that's quite a ways to go. So once it starts boiling, you just want to start watching it closely, and then after a little while, you want to start taking the temperature to see where it's at. Usually I find that once it starts boiling, it stays around 225 to 230 for quite a while. That temperature is usually where the water is starting to boil off and evaporate, and once that's done, it really starts to climb. So watch it carefully. Make sure to have your candy thermometer fitted on your saucepan if you're using a traditional candy thermometer. I use an instant read thermopin thermometer, which I love, but you may not all have one, so use whatever you're used to. Once your temperature reaches 300 degrees, turn off the stove and take the pan off right away. This is where I said it's great to have everything ready to go. You want to pour in your flavoring. Now, you can use whatever flavoring you like. I do a mix. The traditional old recipe that my grandma used to make when she made candy was just cinnamon candy, which I know in today's modern times, a lot of people don't love cinnamon candy. I still kind of like it. I know, big surprise. But you can also go the more modern route and do cherry. I love to use whatever flavoring, and usually these flavorings are right beside these candy molds in the aisle, so you can just pick and choose right there. And then put in your food coloring. Red, obviously, it's Valentine's Day. And then stir that up. It is gonna bubble kind of vigorously at first, so be careful. And then pour it right into your prepared measuring cup. You do wanna work rather quickly because sugar does harden fairly fast. So once it's in your measuring cup, start pouring it into your molds. I like to pour it directly over that stick that's gonna be in the middle of the sucker. That way you make sure that it's coated completely. And if it starts to bubble quite a bit in your molds, just move on to the next one, and then you may have to go back and fill them back up if they weren't all the way full. As you can tell, as I keep going along, it gets a lot thicker because it is cooling down, so it is becoming harder. Don't worry, you just have to work as quick as you can, but don't rush yourself. You can always make more. You don't want to get in a hurry and either burn yourself or make a huge mess. Once you have all of it out of there and in your molds, you just want to set the molds aside in a little bit cooler place until they harden completely. That's all there is to it. I told you this was easy. Once they are hard, they just pop right out of the mold because we oiled them. Make sure you oil them or they are not gonna pop right out. They're gonna break out, and then no one's happy with that. Once you take them out of the mold, you can put them right into one of these nice little cellophane bags. They're clear, they look perfect on these suckers, then they won't stick together either. And then just twist them off with a little twist tie. I think these are so fun because you made them. It is so much more meaningful, and you can tailor them to whatever flavor you love. So this Valentine's, I hope you make your own sucker candy because they are absolutely delicious, fun, and easy. If you agree and like this video, make sure to click like below, and then head on over and click subscribe so you can be a part of the Gray Boxwood YouTube channel and be up to date on all of our videos. I love to hear from you guys, so make sure to leave a comment and tell me what you're doing for Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day.